get started. So yeah, so where we're at with the pilot, like I said, we're going to try and work towards the 12th of April, that week commencing 12th of April, as the live date. But if there are any problems, you know, your end, then that's absolutely fine. We're very flexible still. We've kind of appreciated that actually it's quite a hard thing to do to get your head around a new system, particularly this one, I think, in terms of the fact it's such a busy time of year. You know, everyone's kind of wrapping up all their projects and then setting their plans for the next year. So I think we've kind of just recognised that that's obviously going to be a bit of a factor in terms of getting your head around, or time to get your head around a system. I've had some feedback from Local Health Watch to say that they've been kind of dipping in and out, but actually it's not really worked for them. So what I would really recommend, which I always say to the people when I'm onboarding new websites, is try and block out chunks of time, because otherwise you're just going to reteach yourself every half an hour and then have half an hour to actually do the work. So I really would recommend doing chunks of time like that. While we've got time, does anyone have any questions around the pilot in general, just like general topic, general feedback about the pilot, or questions? Nope. Cool. Right, so I'm going to show you how it looks on the front end. So what I've actually done for the purposes of this demonstration, I did a couple of bite-sized videos yesterday as well, which you can find on Workplace, because I appreciate that, you know, no one's got the time to sit through an hour and a half training session every single time to try and find that one bit of information. So try to split those up as much as I can. But essentially, I've published a Local Health Watch, Health Watch Darlington in this instance. They're nearly ready to go live. So I've published their project, and then I've published the national project as well, so that you can see what it looks like from a user perspective. So when people log on, they haven't registered, they're able to see, you know, obviously the sign up button. They're also able to see the different projects that they can take part in. So I've got the national project here, so if people want to take on it from that, and obviously as they go down, they'll be able to see, you know, the different health watch that are taking part, and be able to click through to find out a bit more information about what the projects are running in their local areas. Now, when you're signing people up or sharing your links, you don't have to share the link to your homepage. You can just click onto your Local Health Watch and obviously share the link to your specific branch. I keep saying branch because that's what they've used in the terminology for the training sessions from CitizenLab, but, you know, whatever it is, your Local Health Watch. And what I'm doing at the moment is I'm getting them to change the URL, so it'll say /, and then instead of saying folders local branch 1, it'll actually say your health watch. So it kind of, you know, actually makes sure that the user, again, it's just that familiarity with your brand. So from a Local Health Watch perspective, you know, you've got who your Local Health Watch is, you've got an opportunity to have some contact details here, and then you've got your different projects. So again, someone can see all of this without actually logging, having an account at all. And they can click in, and only when you've actually set it so that obviously they can only participate if they're registered, will they actually be caused to sign up for the details. So they can find all the information about the project, and then if they're interested, they can obviously sign up to create an account to participate. Same with the homepage. You know, we've basically got this set up so that they can do the same with us. You know, they can go into ours or any different Local Health Watch. And then we've got just a bit of a summary here about just who Health Watch actually is, what we do, and our call to action on here is to contact your Local Health Watch if they want to get in touch with you in any other way. So that will just take them through to contact your Local Health Watch page. You've got the sign up form, and then you've obviously got the website is from Health Watch. Everyone's got the same sign up form, so it kind of provides a bit of consistency coming through. So I just wanted to show you that. So for the sign up, you've got your first, last name and your email address, and obviously they've got to set up a password as well. So I'm just going to quickly show you what that looks like. I'm going to do I'm going to put my one in. And then once you go through this step, they're the core details that everyone has to do. Oh, of course it's done. Then we go to next step. And then you've basically got a list of demographic data. Remember, this is your only point of collecting this information from participants. So they have got the option to whether they want to do it or not. So it's very clear, they've got optional there, and it also says you do not have to answer in your instructions. But obviously it would be great if they do, because then we can obviously see if there's any differences in the demographics of the information that we're testing or collecting, sorry. But people can skip this step, or they can complete their sign up. So we have got that. And now once you're in it, you can obviously participate. So everything looks pretty much the same, but now the difference is they can actually see what it is they can actually participate in. So that's just a quick overview of how it looks on the front end. You know, it's fairly obvious once you see it, but it's quite hard to visualize if you haven't. So I'm going to sign it out now and then log back in as myself. Okay, so you're logged in as you now, and I'm going to go to Manage Platform, top right hand corner. This will take me through to my dashboard. Now do bear in mind that some of the stuff that you can see here you won't be able to see because obviously I'm the Healthwatch England admin, so I've got kind of like a bit more admin stuff than you so that I can help if you ever come over any problems. But otherwise this is the majority of the things that you've got. So what we're going to have a quick look at is the engagement tools and how they're what we could use them for. So I'm going to quickly go to projects. I'm going to go to my test project that I made earlier. And in this one, this is with a timeline. So I'm just going to quickly go to timeline and edit my first phase so that I can see the different types of things that you might want to use as an engagement tool. So you've got your collect input and feedback. So the way that this looks is this is going to be a bit like a discussion forum. So people have options to put comments in, people can reply to each other's comments, they can interact with it. You can interact with it from your Healthwatch's point of view as well. People can vote on different things. So it just kind of depends on the structure of what you're asking, really. So you can position it as ideas, questions, contributions, and obviously you want to put in the top bit about a little bit about the project and what it might be so that people actually know the kind of information that you're looking for. You've got a budget allocation exercise. So this one, I'm not really sure how much it's going to be used for Healthwatch, but it could be quite a good, interesting one. Say if you've got, you know, a specific budget in your area, and actually you kind of were trying to get members of the public to force their hand a little bit in terms of where they would put the money. So are they going to invest if they had the option to put it in mental health services, or are they actually going to invest in improving their GP practice? So it kind of gives a little bit of more weighting to their choice if they've got some kind of money thoughts behind it. Creating a poll is a very quick way to get, you know, interaction. So you're not really going to get really in-depth information here. You're not going to get people's like qualitative data and experiences. But what you can do is get a bit really quick insight into a snapshot question. So, for example, you know, are you going to get the COVID vaccine? Yes or no, and kind of get a bit of an idea of the uptake in your local area. You've got an advanced survey, so this is going to be the survey method that this platform uses, which is actually Typeform that they recommend. So you should all have a Typeform account, but obviously if you don't, then do just get in touch and we can make sure that that's set up properly. I'll go on to Typeform in a bit more detail a little bit later on. You've got find volunteers. So with this one, you know, you might be able to have, if you've got a range of activities, you might want to get volunteers that are suitable for different areas. So maybe like an office worker, or you might want someone that specialises in engagement face-to-face when it's allowed, obviously. So, you know, you might be able to get people to position themselves against the different tasks from your local Healthwatch. And then you've got your share information. So this is really important in terms of just sharing back why you're doing something, what you're going to be doing with someone's data. Where are you in the stage of your research project? So, you know, have you completed stage 1? Are you busy analysing the data? And kind of try and give people a bit more information about what you're actually doing there. You've then also got workshops, which are really great, but I'm going to go on to them a little bit later. So workshops will obviously enable you to have kind of this conversation, so you can have your teams chat, but in a bit more of a constructive way, because you can actually set some kind of tasks ahead of time, and you can obviously pull off that data that you're getting from people to analyse as well directly from the workshops, from the chat, and be able to analyse that using the text analysis function that's in this platform. So, a survey. You'll want to go to your Typeform account first of all. And there's a couple of things that we're going to discuss today. So we're going to go through the different types of questions, but very briefly, because they're kind of, you know, if you use a survey function already, which most of you do, you're probably very aware of the different types of questions, but we're just going to go over those just so that you're kind of, I want to make sure that everyone's kind of starting off with the same knowledge. And then we're going to go on to things like branding it and then making sure that you're bringing through the right information from the survey to and linking it up to the actual project on CitizenLab as well. So what I've done here is I've done a local health watch test. So obviously for you guys, if you want to start from scratch, it's just new type form. I'm going to just click on here. Sorry, super slow. The joys of living in the country. Okay, so it's really easy actually to add questions in. I mean, you'll get this and it's completely blank and you've got nothing there at all. So I would really stress, and I don't know if anyone's probably, well, I'm sure all of you can kind of empathise, is when people ask you to make a survey in an organisation, they need to have the questions ready for you to go. Don't change it once it's online. Obviously, if you're online and you want to change it in terms of a test point of view, great. If something's like flagged up, like you forgot a full stop or actually the sequencing's not quite right, fine. But try and get most of it done on paper, or in our case, on a Word document as possible, so you can just transfer it over to here. It's really key just to make your life so much easier when it comes to making an online survey. But anyway, I'm going to add a question, which is literally just this plus button on the left hand side. And then you can have a number of different options here. So you can have a welcome screen, which is, quite useful to actually just make sure that people are aware of what they're actually signing up to. Quite useful if you're just sharing the link of the survey rather than the actual project itself. So you can obviously, with the project, you've obviously already got that bit of brief at the top. So just double check that you're not repeating yourself too much on the platform. But obviously you want to kind of give a bit of an indication of what people are actually filling out. So that might be quite useful in some instances. Multiple choice option, very easy. And this is how it looks. So this is going to be multiple choice, obviously. So someone just picks one of the options there. I think there are positions to have multiple selections, so that's just kind of up to you in terms of how you set that one up. But obviously, it's quite a handy feature and one commonly used by Healthwatch. Phone number, if you want to get that detail from them, fantastic. But to be honest, you should really have all the information that you need from your registration form. Hey, Chris. So that's kind of already in there. Short text and long text. I mean, that's pretty much self-explanatory, right? So if you only need a sentence from them, put the short text. That's quite useful if you want to just get like I don't know, what area of healthcare would you like? You'd actually only want, a short text option rather than a massive explanation around that. Obviously, long text is more of a paragraph, and you can encourage a lot more information. Statement, I'm not really sure about this one, to be honest. I'm not sure how often I would use that. I mean, I guess you get them to reply, but I'm not really sure what's different about that with a long text box. So have a bit of a play around, and if you do find that useful, do let me know so I can obviously pass it on to the other local health watch. But as far as I can see, it's not massively different to the long text box. So that's literally it, really simple, and obviously means that kind of from a user perspective it's also really simple. So it's nice, you can swap your questions around really easily if that's what you want to do, and you can delete them or duplicate them as well. So actually, to make it easier for yourself, you can actually clone the questions, particularly if you've got like something like this where you've got a bit of a scale, that the scale is going to be pretty much the same for every question you're asking. The ability to duplicate that is obviously going to make your survey production a lot more simpler, a lot easier, because actually all you've got to do is change that question at the top. So they're the different question types. What I'm going to do now is show you around the branding. So on the left hand side again, instead of the editor option, I'm now going to go to design. You can see here I've got a couple of themes, but what I'm going to do is add a new theme to show you what this looks like. So this is what you'll see straight away when you're on your platform. It will be in this kind of blue and black, just standard type form branding. But obviously what we want to do is we want to make sure that that is branded so it looks like our local health watch, so that we're actually being consistent with what we do. We have got a visual brand guidelines, so you should all be aware of this document. It's on the communication center, but if you haven't got it, just give me a nudge and I'll send it over to you. Well, it'll only take me 2 seconds. And basically what's in there, if you go to page 10, you'll be able to see that you've got the different codes for the different colours. So your core colours are obviously the blue, pink and the green, and they're right at the top, and they're what you'll need to input into this. So first of all, we're going to go to the system font, and we're going to click down on there to get the different options. And what we're going to go for is Lato, whatever you want to call it. But that's the one that we're going to be using because that's what's consistent in terms of what's on our CitizenLab platform. It's what's on our websites, so it just means that it's continuous all the way through. For questions, all of the text on our platform is going to be blue, the HealthWatch blue. We've already branded that one for you, so you don't need to worry about it. But obviously in this case, we need to change that. So we just need to take the HTML code, which is on our official brand guidelines, and we're going to just input that in here, like so. And you can see that that's automatically changed the color of the question up here, which is really great. Now, in terms of the answers, we're going to make that pink. And the reason for that is what we've done along our sites and what we've done on the platform is that any kind of call to action is in pink. So that's why we've got that, because obviously that's where we want people to actually click and interact. So that's fairly easy and indicates that we want them to do something. Now, in terms of buttons, I guess that this is not really applicable to this question type, but it might be applicable to another one. So again, just to kind of save you some work a bit later on, we're just going to make that one pink because a button would indicate a call to action. Now, you can change the background if you want to, but you know, think about that, please, because that's obviously not accessible at all. So actually what I would just do is just leave it as white, but that's completely up to you. Depends what you want to do. You can obviously change the text if you want to in terms of the sizing of it, in terms of large, medium and small, and whether it's centered or not. But I would always keep it left aligned because actually for accessibility reasons, people actually read from left to right on a screen. So it just kind of, just is more accessible that way. So once you've done that, you can actually save as new theme. And then when you're making surveys in the future, you can just select that theme now. So you don't have to go through all the branding all over again. You just need to select that theme that you've created before so that it's consistent. So you only need to do it once, which is really helpful. What have I got next on my agenda? So that's everything to do with branding. What I'm going to cover next is hidden fields. So you might have remembered this, or they mentioned it very briefly in the training before, but hidden fields are basically a way to link through the registration data with your survey data so that when you're actually doing the analysis, you don't have to ask people for their name, because actually you can just ask them for their user ID. Well, not even ask them, you can just bring that through automatically. And you can also bring through their email address automatically as well. But what you need to do is you need to do that before you've kind of gone live. So to do that, you just need to again go to the left-hand side and select logic. Now, for sometimes with the logic, what you'll need to do, you might recognize it from your current systems in terms of you can obviously have question logic, which means that if you select yes, you're then shown the next question, or actually if you select no, you skip and you go to the one after that. So that's how we normally think of logic. But in this sense, what we need to do is go to advanced and go to hidden fields. And you can see I've made this already. So I'm actually just going to delete this just so that we can do it for the purpose of the demonstration. So all I need to do is simply add a hidden field. And what we will want is we want a user underscore ID. And then we want to add another one and put in email. And then we want to save that. And then if we select publish, then obviously this isn't actually published anywhere at the moment because we've not linked it through to our project, so don't worry about it. But what it means is we can just be extra sure that those settings have been saved for this survey. So like I said, what that will do by adding those hidden fields takes 2 seconds, but it just means that it links up that registration data with your survey. So that kind of brings it all together quite nicely for you. And now what we're going to cover is actually putting the survey into our project. So it uses Typeform so that it means that the system's not embedded into CitizenLab, but it does work side by side very quite well with it. So what we're going to do is go to one of our projects. So again, I'm going to go to my test project. In this case, it's on a timeline. So I'm going to go down to here. And I'm going to select the option of create an advanced survey, which is going to dictate the different fields that are below it. So you can see here I've selected the option of type form. It does do that reminder of hidden fields. So, you know, if you have forgotten, it's quite easy to go and add. And I have got a little mini clip on Workplace on hidden fields and some all of these different elements that I'm talking about today in terms of branding, hidden fields and embedding into your project. I've done them as short clips so you can follow up in a much more easy way rather than looking at this whole recording. But you've got this service, you've got this type form, sorry, and then you've got the option there to embed your URL. So how do we get that? Well, we go to our type form that we're, you know, the one in question. We've already set it up, and then we're going to go to share. So it's just loading up. And you can see here that it's now got our link. You can see it's already got that CitizenLab link in there in terms of in the URL. So we just need to copy that link. Now, when you have hidden fields, it will automatically add those onto the end of your URL, but you don't need that. And it's really important that you delete that element of your URL before you link it with your project. So unfortunately, you can't do that directly on here. So if you look, I'm just trying to press delete now, and it won't actually let me do that. But what we need to do is just copy that link, go back to our project, and where it says embed URL, we can paste it. And then we just need to delete all the way up to where that hashtag is, which is where the new hidden fields have started, so that we've got just our main core URL there, and that's what we need to have embedded into our project page. If you haven't had any URL hidden fields added at all, then obviously you're just going to have that plain URL. It's only if you've got hidden fields that you need to do any extra action there. So I'm now going to save that into my project. I've now embedded my survey, and I'm going to just make sure that it's pulled through. So I'm going to go to view the project, and you can see down here, there we go, my survey's being pulled through. Now it's really worth just kind of remembering that if you're in a timeline, your stuff is only going to show to a user if you're within that date. So for example, if I was going to have a phase 2, and that's where my survey is going to appear, and actually I've not set that date to start until, you know, mid-April, I won't be able to see that being pulled through because it's not in the correct date. So if you do just want to quickly check it, I would just make sure that you go to change the dates so that the date is the current one that you're working on, just to make sure that it's all being pulled through, that you're happy with how it looks. So for example, if you have decided to have that welcome screen, is it accessible? Test it on mobile. Is it also accessible on mobile? And just make sure that you've got that all correct. And then obviously go back and change the date, which means that it will hide the field. So I'm going to just quickly show you what it would mean to hide the field. If I change that to a date that doesn't exist, well, doesn't exist, that is in the future, and press save. Oh, it's got a different overlapping one, so it's not going to work. Let's try this one. Delete that and press save. And I view the project, so I'm going to go to the next one, and you can see that says this survey can only be taken when this phase in the timeline is active. So although I've done all the right things, I've embedded it, I can't see it being pulled through. So that's everything to do with type form that I really need to show you in terms of, I'm only focusing on the steps to get you live at this stage. You know, I'm not going to go through to any more detail in terms of the analysis side of things. It's just all the important steps you need to do to make sure that it's correctly branded and you're in a position to go live. So does anyone have any questions at this stage? If you want to pop them in the chat box, you can as we go along. Otherwise, I'm going to carry on.
Yeah, I think I have a question.
Okay.
On the type form, because I just Beth has started a survey on there and I just finished it off yesterday. I saw there was no like save button. You said I should have just published it. Is that right? Like,
yes.
It's not linked.
Yeah. So if you publish that, because you haven't linked it through to anywhere, you know, it's not out in the open, you can just publish it, and that's kind of going to make sure that that's saved. It's a bit confusing, I have to say. I also had to be told that on a video before I did it myself. But yeah, that's how you would do that. Okay,
perfect.
Well, Laura, clearly you were showing your screen then. I've not been able to get it to work for me.
Oh.
Yeah, so I might duck out and try and come back in again, see if that fixes it.
hang on a sec. I'm just going to stop sharing and then share again, and see if that one works.
Oh yeah, that's worked again now.
Yeah, it might just be because you entered late, I think, maybe,
yeah.
Hopefully. James, have you been able to see that the whole time?
Was that, sorry, you shared screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been able to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been able to see it.
That's the key. Otherwise, that would be a complete waste of time.
Everyone's too polite to say.
Okay. That's good. Okay, wonderful. Then the next bit that I'm going to cover very briefly is just the difference between a timeline project and a standalone project. So I'm just going to open this one in a new link, and then I'm also going to go to my manage platform, projects. I'm going to manage one of my draft ones. So I've got two projects here, both on vaccinations, and basically one of them is going to be a very standalone. So what I mean by that is it's got no kind of phase timeline. It's just you're asking someone to do one thing, one type of engagement tool. So in this case, it's the ideas forum that I've selected. So to try and collect information from people, or in this case, ask questions around what the vaccination program actually is. So to try and get people to interact, I've actually put a couple of cards there myself. Obviously, it's not published, so it's not just that I've done really badly in trying to get people over here. This is just obviously a demo for you. So as you can see straight away there's no timeline. It's just that one type of engagement method, and then you've got obviously different bits of information about what's in that engagement method. So for in this instance, you've got 2 questions, because that's what's been asked down here. I've also linked an event, so we'll cover this a little bit later. So this would be where I would, if you've got a workshop, you might want to advertise that here on your project. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward, and if people can share this on their social media, but it is just limited to this, so you've got no way to really share information about what you're doing with that data and what the next steps are. It's just, this is the ask basically. Now when you've got a timeline, again, this is around the COVID vaccination project, but I've got 5 phases on my timeline here. So I've already had one phase, and people can go back and they can see, what's happened before, if that's what they want to do. They obviously can't interact once that date's gone. But initially what we'd had here was we were going to have a survey. And then the phase 2 looks at getting ideas from people. So actually what we've decided to do with this project is take people from the exploratory phase, which is just kind of being like, how do you feel about vaccinations? Have you got any issues with it? Blah, blah, blah. And then the second phase kind of builds on that and actually is getting people to be taking part in helping to overcome the issues that they've said. So we've obviously identified that there's an issue with barriers to vaccination. So actually, how could the NHS and the government help improve that? And actually, we're actually including people into those solutions. So that will be what's happening in this phase. Then moving on, so we've done all of this planning beforehand. We've thought about all the different stages depending on what we kind of expect the environment to be like at that time. At this particular one, we're at the stage now where we're quite a few months into the vaccination rollout, and we just want to know, has people's opinion of the vaccine changed in the last 3 months? So there's been a lot of media about it. There's been it's a very fast-paced project, so we were just quite interested in this stage to kind of see if people's opinions had changed. And then in phase 4, what we decided to do was then we're in May the 17th, so we know that the plan from the government is to have X amount of adults vaccinated at least once by that stage. So actually we want to understand more about people's experiences of that, and also get people to talk about their friends and families members and experiences as well, to kind of build on that information that's coming through. And then the final one is obviously thanking people for taking part and actually just telling them that actually we are doing something with their results. We're busy analysing them at the moment, and we're going to be sharing our learnings with health and social care leaders in this case. So it all links together. It builds quite nicely, and it's just kind of telling people that it's just not, we want this information and then we're going to potentially drop it. It just shows to people that we're actually building on that. It's we're including them in all the different stages of the project, and it's just a more in-depth way, I guess, of engaging people than what we've been currently doing so far. So any questions around the differences of timeline versus no timeline? Nope. Cool. Oh, Beth, you've come off mute there.
No, I was just going to say no questions.
Oh. Sorry. Yeah, so I would just say that it's really, really important to think about what the outcome is. You know, what do you want to do right at the beginning when you're setting up your project? What is it that you actually want from people? And how are the possible ways that you can engage them? So it's not just about having a bunch of phases so that you can explore every single type of engagement tool. It's actually just using the engagement tools to get the information that you're actually kind of looking for, and giving people different ways to engage, yes, but actually information that you can use in your reports, and information that you can share with your stakeholders that's valuable. And I think the biggest thing really that's people have said that it's so important is just always saying why are you doing it, why are you asking them for this information, and what will you do with it afterwards. That's that. I'm now going to have a quick overview of the online workshop. So they've got some really useful, I have to say, guidance on how to create your own workshop. So it's one of those things where I would just advocate you, before you actually come around to doing a real version, just do a bit of a demo to get used to the different system and what it actually does for you, because you'll find that actually it's kind of the ability of it will cause you to be like, we could change the way that we would do this normally, I have to say, and it's very simple to follow. But what we're going to do now is show you a version of how easy it's going to be. So I'm going to click on Manage Your Workshop. So you should, as your user, obviously only be able to see your own local health watch workshops here. So obviously I have got the admin view, so I can see this one here, which is from Darlington, and I've got my own test workshop that I had a go at doing yesterday. You can see you can do a really easy test workshop and just delete it really quickly, which I'm actually going to do because nobody needs to see that, because it's just me talking to myself. So I'm going to just add a new workshop here, and I'm just going to do test local health watch as its name. So you can change the URL slug. So what that means is the bit that comes after the /. So where you've got this URL here, you've got .co/, and actually you can just change it so that your slug refers to whatever it is that you're testing. But obviously I'm going to only do a test here, so that's fine. When's it going to start? So I'm actually going to do ours so it's happening whilst we speak, just to show the example, but obviously you can just change the date and the time depending on what you want to do. And it takes you to this blank screen, and at first I was a bit like, how, that's not very helpful at all, but you know, all you need to do is go to manage. You need to add a room. So this one is going to be just room 1, and what you can do here by creating a room is actually give permissions to the people that are participating. So whether you want people to interact or whether actually you want people to kind of force them to interact. So I like to actually just give people the option to have their mic and camera on, because obviously we don't all look our best when we're on video calls. But you know, if it's a closed group and actually you know that everyone's there to participate, you might just want to save them the trouble and actually just start it with their camera on if you want to. Sharing their screens, so depends on how interactive your workshop is in terms of the setup. So for example, even if you did this maybe for a board meeting, if you enable participants to share their screen, then more than just kind of the host is able to do that. So we're going to add that one in there, so that's just the room. And then I'm going to add step. So step 1, add, and then I'm just going to do step 2 quickly. I'm just going to do, oh, I missed an important one, which is the welcome step. So you can see there that I've forgotten to add the welcome one in, but don't worry, you can reorder, and literally by, oh, I thought it was a drag and drop, but you can't. You can just use your arrows and you can change that one around. So it's not set in stone. If you decide that actually you want to change how people can interact, which I'll show you in a minute, that you can do break rooms, you can do a question and answer, you can do a poll, and if you change your mind once you're through the process, it's not that you have to restart all over again. You just have to click reorder steps and use the arrows there. So we'd always recommend doing a welcome. So obviously when people actually enter your workshop, you've let them all in, then you can have a holding screen, so you can have some really, you know, core instructions there of just turn your mic off, keep your mic on, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to go to step. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to edit. How did I do this before? Apologies, you can tell I'm new to this too. It was so easy before. Aha. There you go. So what you've done is you've created your steps. Apologies for that, it's not the best demo in the world, but it is all new to me as well. So you've got the welcome, step 1, step 2, and obviously you've set up your room. Now what you need to do is you need to add room step to your step. So I'm going to select that. So room 1 is everybody is in that currently. So all the people that have, are in your workshop, they're all in there. And now I can tell them how I would like them to interact during that phase. So I'm obviously on welcome. So actually all I want to do is add information. And you can just have information shown to participants. So I'm just going to put this so you can see how this would look on the back end, on the front end. Add. And then I'm going to also go now to step 1. So again, with my room, I'm going to do a Q&A. So I might put take part in our Q&A. This will all make sense when you see it on the front end, I promise you. You can allow posting, allow voting, and what I'm going to do is add some questions. So obviously you'll have thought about this beforehand, but say, for example, I'm going to use the COVID vaccination again. So I'm going to put, are you likely to get the COVID vaccine? I'm going to add another question being like, what are the barriers to the COVID vaccine? And I'm going to press add. So I've now got room 1. I've got my welcome, which is going to have information. I'm going to have my step 1, which is going to have a Q&A. And then I'm just going to add another one, which is going to be a breakout room. And you can have the option of self-selection, or which most of us are going to go for because it's just a lot easier and it makes sure that you've got an equal distribution, random assignment. And again, you will now just some information to participants. Put into a break room. Okay, so if I now exit that, I can show you the different steps along the way. So I've got this one here. So this is where the information is going to be. So this is the welcome screen. So obviously you can build on the information that you can see from a participant side here. You can share your screen if that's what you want to do. So if I want to, have a PowerPoint or something, I'm more than capable of doing that. So I can share my entire screen and share a specific application. That one is useful if you've got some kind of automated messaging. For example, if you've got a Facebook Messenger that pops up or Teams messaging that pops up, do just share your application window because it means that no one's, privy to your conversation. So I'm going to do that there. That's going to be my welcome screen. And you can basically time it so that, for example, if you've decided to, if you said to participants here, we're going to start in 5 minutes, you can literally time it so that it automatically goes to the next step in 5 minutes time. And your participants will be able to see that as well. So they'll also be able to see when actually the next phase is starting. They can see a little countdown clock. Now, if you want to cancel countdown and actually just start it automatically, you've got the ability to do that too. So obviously you can just press now, which is quite a useful thing. So what I'm going to do is actually take people from this one to the next step. So I'm now on step 1, which is going to be my Q&A. So I've obviously provided that information, take part in our Q&A. That's where that appears for participants. And as a participant, I'm now on a specific question. So obviously I'll put my answer in here, yeah, whatever, into that. And what you can do as the host is you can give people a certain amount of time to take part in that specific question, and then you can move them all onto the question 2, or you can kind of leave them at their leisure and kind of just be like, okay, right, well, when you finish that one, you can go to the next one. But obviously we can also, actually, no, I wouldn't put the timer on for that one. I would just inform them about that. So actually, I would just say, move everyone to the next one. Give them that opportunity to give their feedback. Yes, doesn't make sense to the question, but you know what I mean. And all of this data from your participants can be exported afterwards. So, you know, it's a really good way to collect real-time information, but not having to sit through a whole recording to then go and follow that up and write your own notes. So if you've got specific questions, it's just a different way of having interaction, but also the fact that actually it's all recorded for you and you can export that data for analysis. So that's my second step. And I'm going to force them to go on to my step 3. And this is a breakout room session. So obviously you've got your different participants. We haven't got any in the room at the moment, but we can obviously see who's in there. And then we can just send them off to different breakout rooms. So if I click that button, I don't think it would do anything because no, it's not going to do anything because it's just me. But obviously have a little go at doing that with more than one person. I would definitely recommend doing tests with this kind of stuff before you go live. But yeah, what it should do is send people off to their breakout rooms. But obviously you'll have said why they're in that breakout room. You would give them a topic to discuss, and maybe you'd want them to get to write some notes on that as well. So obviously by the more information that you get people to write down, the easier it is to export and the easier it is to analyze a little bit later on. So that's really useful too. So if I go to manage again, just to have a look at the different, the other methods of participation. You've got a poll, super simple, the way that polls work really. So add poll. What do you think about X? Answer choices, yes or no, apply changes. Let me just show you how that one looks in real life now. I don't know if I'll be able to actually. I'll just add another step in to show you. Okay, so I've now added another step. So I'm going to force them to go for the poll step, and you can start poll. So obviously people are now able to submit their votes submitted, and then obviously you can move it across to the next step. So actually that's quite a useful feature in the sense that actually if you find that you want to add as you're going through, because actually there's something useful. So for example, if something's come out of your breakout room and you think actually that would be quite a nice snapshot piece of information to find out, then you're going to add a poll based on that information into your mix, which maybe you haven't done before, but at least it does enable you to be a bit more reactive, which is good because you never know how the conversations are going to go with some kind of workshops. So another participation method is to summarize discussion. So that one is literally says what it, is what it says on the tin really. So if I force them to go along, we can obviously see what's happened in the different sections, and then we're actually enabled to summarize the group discussions based on what's happened in maybe the breakout rooms, maybe it's happened in the overall meeting itself, and then obviously participants can be privy to that information as well, so they can kind of correct you there and then. So it depends on how you want to use that, but obviously it just enables you to have more qualitative data, which could be useful for you long term. And then you can just leave or end the workshop for everybody, standard really. So that's everything that I really need to show you. I mean, I would always recommend having an end screen as well, which I would just have the same as the initial one, which is information, to obviously have that, goodbye screen at the end. You might want to give some feedback about the event, or actually you might want to encourage people to follow you on certain channels, maybe on your social media. But that's how you would do that. And then in terms of exporting the data, you would just literally just select that one there and it comes out in a download, which is an Excel spreadsheet. So that's quite handy. I appreciate that's a bit of a quick run through. There is, like I say, some really good guidance in terms of step by step. So that might help you, but I just wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to see it rather than having to pick up the guidance from scratch. Beth, you got a question?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was really, really good, useful. I was just wondering, if we were obviously once you've set it up, is it just as easy as like something like sending out a link for Teams or Zooms or something where you just send it out to people? And do the people have to sign up before they're allowed to use this particular workshop?
No, they don't. So I actually got my colleague to test that one yesterday. So it is just a case of copying and pasting your URL, and then whatever stage, say if people join a bit later on as well, they'll just be automatically put in whatever step the rest of your participants are in. So obviously they're not, once you've started and if people are late, that doesn't actually stop them from joining. It just means that they might have just missed a couple of steps. So it's just a case of sharing this URL with people. And actually I'm just going to have a quick open up of my emails because I've got my colleague to show you what it looks like from the front end. I might just send these round to you afterwards actually rather than do that now. They're basically just asked for their name to start with, obviously, but that's all that they actually kind of need. You don't really need any other information other than that, which is good because obviously with something like this, you can advertise it as a bit of a standalone, or you can obviously encourage registered participants to join, but you don't have to do one or the other, which is quite good in terms of not limiting people to take part. So in terms of actually linking it through to your platform, as I said, you would just copy and paste the URL. If I go to CitizenLab, back to my project, and I go to my national project, you can see that on the top line here, you've got events, and all you would need to do is add an event. And this would be, you know, COVID workshop, for example, and it would be online. Whatever the date would be, I would describe what it is here, and then I would just literally select this link, add a button. Oh, you're cheeking me. Well, it should add me a button. And people will just be able to click that to sign themselves up for your online workshop. So it's not really something that, you know, it's not an engagement method as such in terms of, oh, I don't know what's happened there. It's not an engagement method in the same way that you've got your survey embedded in the platform or your ideas embedded in the platform. You know, it's sending people off elsewhere, but it feels to a participant, it kind of feels like it's the same platform, which is what we want. But the best thing about it, like I said, is the fact that you can share that on your social media and direct people straight through to that, so you don't have to take them through this whole journey to sign up to the actual workshop itself. Any other questions around the workshops? Nope. Cool. So as I said, the CitizenLab information on it is super useful. It's very simple to follow, I have to say. So obviously now you kind of got the look and feel of it and understand how that's going to come through on the front end. I would definitely recommend just giving that one a test. Definitely test it out before you do one in real life, because it is a very different, and you kind of want to also just test and see what the data is going to look like on the other end, so that you're also prepared to deal with that and how that's going to come through. So I think that's everything that I was going to do in terms of my demonstration actually today. I was going to show you the task list about what I'm going to be sending through to you guys to help you kind of structure the pilot in a little bit better. But does anyone have any questions at all? James, I know that you said you came in with a few questions, so have I answered them all, or do you have any left?
No, I think you've answered them all, to be honest. They were mostly just on the type form, but how to link it. I didn't really understand how it linked before. So it's with the URL, you just paste that in. And then the saving, I didn't see a save button when I did the survey, so I just have to publish that. And once I've linked it, then it would go up straight away. Is that right, on the platform?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were my main questions. I think you've covered everything else, really. Cool.
One thing I haven't covered, I guess, is the actual publication of your projects. So once you're ready and you feel that you're, you know, at the stage of I want to go live, let me know, and then what I'll do is I'll go through and then I'll provide some feedback based on what you've done to kind of, it might be little things like the branding's maybe slightly off, or, you know, I've just picked up on a bit of wording or whatever, and then we can, it's super easy. It's just a case of publishing your project. So yeah, just let me know, try and give me, you know, a couple of days notice, preferably before you actually want to go live, to make sure that I can have a look at it. But yeah, it's relatively straightforward.
Okay, what will do?
So in terms of the task list for you guys, so again, this is just to kind of give you a bit of an idea of the structure of the pilot, what it can do. I'm aware that there's a lot of advice out there in terms of how to use a platform. So what I've tried to do is condense it all into one space. So for example, what I'm quite interested to know is how easy is it to create a new user, for example, on your platform. And actually what I've done is I found a useful advice article. So if you don't know, or if you're kind of, as we said before, it's one of those things where if you don't do it every day, then sometimes you can easily forget. I've got the advice information article there too. So all I need you to do with this task list, don't be overwhelmed by the amount of pages, because honestly, it looks way worse than what it actually is. At some point during the pilot, so whenever you're doing it, if you want to do a hindsight one, absolutely fine, doesn't matter to me, as long as it's done by the end of the pilot, which is the 31st of July. It's just to rate the different functionality and provide any comments if you have anything useful. So for example, you know, if you found it difficult, it would be really great to have a bit of explanation as to why. It goes on for, like, you know, the back end kind of stuff, to more around the email marketing aspect of it, the branding, how easy is that to do, actually managing the engagement on your platform I'm interested in, the different types of engagement tools themselves and how easy you found them, but not only on the platform, but compared to kind of what you're currently using. Because obviously if the survey tool that you're currently using you actually find better than the CitizenLab, then that's really useful information for me to know. But also the other way around, you know, CitizenLab's really good, then it would be really great to understand why. What's the difference between the two of them, that would be also useful to know. Or actually, are they exactly the same? In which case, that's also fairly good. So yeah, so I'm going to send this along to you. I've just sent it across to the CitizenLab people, just to kind of double check and make sure I'm not asking any questions of you guys that actually only myself and Chris can answer as the kind of overall site admins. But like I say, if you have any questions at all about the task list or about any of the project, do ask them on Workplace, do ask them directly to me. CitizenLab do have, like I say, a number of articles, so hopefully this document of tasks will actually help you be able to find those a lot more easily. And they've obviously also got an inbuilt support system as well, which I have to say they're not hugely responsive in terms of that immediate stuff, but they do definitely get back to each query. It just might not be, you know, within the hour, but they definitely do, probably, I'd say in my experience, definitely within, you know, a day, like 12 hours, I would say that they get back to you. So it's worth exploring how useful that is. And that's everything from me, really. Any questions at all about the task, the pilot, anything we've discussed, or is there anything that I haven't covered that you'd like to find useful at a bit of a later date, maybe?
No, I've got no questions. Thank you, Laura.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. All right then. Well, that's me done. Thank you very much for coming, and obviously I will be sharing this with the rest of the group that couldn't come today because it was very short notice, so I do appreciate that you were able to join. But yeah, if anything pops into your head, just give me a shout.
Thank you ever so much.
Okay, thanks for that.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.